I used to go to hotels thinking like hotels are safe and nothing could happen while I'm at a hotel until this happened to me. And this video is strictly for the purpose of raising awareness on being safe while you are not at your home, where you take the proper procedures to make sure that your home is safe. Do the same while you're staying at these hotels. So about 2 weeks ago, we were in Memphis, Tennessee. By we, me and my husband. My husband was there for work purposes. I went there to be there and support him. And while I was there, my husband was working graveyard shifts, night shifts, and he worked 8 p.m. that day. On this specific day this event occurred. It was a Friday, and he left about 7:35 to go to work. And I was, right before he left, he said to me, hey, don't forget to put the latch on, and don't forget to put the deadbolt on when I leave. I said, okay, of course. So when he walked out, I put the deadbolt on. If you don't know what I mean by that, I mean like when you're at the hotel, when you close the door automatically closes. It doesn't, it automatically locks, and you need your key card to open it, even though you don't put that extra lock in the latch on. So when I'm in the room and we're like about to go to sleep or whatever, we lock the lock and put the latch on, which is what I refer to as the deadbolt in the latch. And so we did that. When he left, after I told him goodbye, he left. I locked the door, locked the deadbolt, and put the latch on, and I went and lay down because it was like about to be 8 o'clock. It was like 7:35 when he left, and I was laying in bed watching a movie on my iPad. I turned off all the lights because I knew I was gonna basically turn down and go to sleep. So as I'm laying in my bed, about 7:50, I hear a knock on the door, and I hear like the handle starts to like someone is trying to open the door. So my first instinct was like, oh, my husband must have forgot something, so maybe he's coming back. And because I have the deadbolt on, when you have the deadbolt on, even if you have a master key or your room key, you can't open the door unless the person unlocks the door. So I'm like, maybe he forgot something and he's rushing back to, get whatever he forgot. So I went ahead, and that was my first instinct, was to get up and run to the door and unlock the door. But then something in me was like, stop. So I stopped and I looked at my phone. I'm like, he didn't call me. He didn't text me. He knows I have the locks on. He would have called me and be like, hey, can you unlock the door? I forgot such and such thing. But he didn't do that. So I'm like, okay, I need to think, like, who the heck is this at the door? So then my second instinct was that maybe it's the staff. But I'm like, why would staff be randomly coming and knocking on your door unless something is wrong? They would have called or something. So I'm like, you know what? Maybe I need to go to the door and see who it is. So I took my shoes off and I tiptoed to the door, opened the door. I didn't open the door. I opened the little, the peephole. And I see this young man. He looks about to be like in his early 20s, wearing a gray sweatshirt, and he had locks, and he's standing on his phone like this. And he's like knocking on my door, and I'm like, I don't know who this kid is. I don't know who this person is. Keep in mind, you probably was like, oh, maybe he saw you or whatever. Whenever we were in the hotel, we barely left the room. And when we did leave the room, it was to go to the gym on the outside. Like we left the property to go to the gym, and we go to breakfast together. So in the event that someone would have saw me, it's likely someone could have saw me. But to say like, oh, I probably was wandering around, that never happened. So I was concerned as to, number one, and two, let's say someone was watching me. How would they know what room I'm in, right? Because I take the proper procedures and the proper precautions to ensure that if I'm being followed, I don't walk straight to my room. I go above and beyond before I go to my room if I feel like I'm being followed. And so I didn't get that feeling, and no one ever got in the elevator with me. No one ever got off the elevator with me on the same floor. So this was completely random is what I'm saying. And that's when I mind you, 2 minutes goes by, he's still knocking. So I'm like, maybe he's a DoorDasher. But then I thought to myself, hey, I'm at a Hilton hotel. Hilton's, if you don't know, majority of Hilton offers this extra security layer where your key card is used to go up on the elevator. If you don't have a key card, you can't go up and down on the elevator. So the probability of the front desk giving a random DoorDasher a master key so he can get on the elevator so he can deliver food is likely not gonna happen, and you're gonna have to go down and go get your food. So I'm like, 9 times out of 10, he's not a DoorDasher. And my third instinct was like, I'm literally going through all the probable causes of why this person will be knocking on my door. And the last resort was like, maybe he's knocking on the wrong door. But I'm like, he's been knocking on my door for 4 minutes now. By now, he would have realized like, hey, I'm knocking on the wrong door. So I left the door. After about 5 minutes of him, mind you, he's still banging on my door. At this point, he begins to get anxious where he's knocking louder. So I didn't go to the phone in the room. Now the distance between where the front door was and the phone was a little way. So I didn't feel that, like, I was whispering, but I knew he wouldn't hear me. So I whispered to the lady. The lady picked up the phone and I said, hi, there's a man knocking on my door. I described what he looked like and I described what he was wearing from the top half because that's the only part I can see. And I said, I don't know who the hell this person is, but they're knocking on my door. Can you send security right away? She said, yes, ma'am. I'm so sorry. I'm going to send security. He's still knocking on the door. Mind you, this is like 8:55. So then I text my husband what's going on, and I'm like, hey, this is the description of the person. This is what they look like from what I'm seeing, and this is what's happening. My husband then calls me, and I go into the bathroom, and I close the door, and I'm whispering to him, and I'm like, this is what's happening. He goes, what the hell is happening? Like, who the hell is this person? I said, I don't know. And at this point, he's still knocking. I said, he's still knocking on the door. My husband was like, if security doesn't get there, call the cops. And I was like, okay. So right when I was about to call the cops and hang up with him, the knocking stopped, and out of nowhere, like a minute goes by and I heard another knock, and I was like, are you kidding me? I think he came back. And that's when I heard, security, hi, you called saying someone was knocking on your door. It's security. So I opened the door. I didn't open the latch, I just opened the door. So then next thing you know, I said, this is the description. I said, you got his description? He goes, yeah, when I got off the elevator, I saw someone with the same description running down the hallway. And I said, okay, so what are you going to do? He's like, oh, we're going to go check and I'll let you know. But look down, because where my room was, it was facing the basketball court. So I was like, he was like, look down in the basketball court to see if you see him. That way we can just go address it right now. And I said, how dumb do you think I am? Do you think I'm going to open the window and have a direct view? Let's say the guy did run downstairs and pretend he was playing basketball. If I opened my window, he would have got a eye view like, oh, she was in the room when I was knocking, so we know she's there. I'm not going to do that. So I'm like, sir, you need to find him. And I would like an update, please. And he's like, of course, we're going to figure it out, ma'am. Please don't worry. So I go back to bed. I didn't sleep that entire night because at that point I was like, this is unacceptable. This is the first time this ever happened to me. And I started running through the scenarios of what would have happened if I opened the door. What would have happened if this? So about like my husband ended up calling me. He was like, hey, do me a favor. Call downstairs and let them know you want to switch the room. I said, perfect. I'm calling downstairs. Mind you, I literally called the lady. She picked up. So I'm calling downstairs. I called at least 3 times. No one answered the phone. And I was like, wait a minute. I'm like, no one's answering me. So then the next morning when my husband got off work, the first thing he did was he called downstairs. He said, there's a situation that happened. This is the situation. And I would like to change my room. And they're like, oh, unfortunately, there's no room available. All the rooms are booked because we're completely booked out. And that's when he was like, okay, well, do me a favor. Can you watch the camera so we can figure out where this person came from and why was it that they're knocking out of all the doors in this hotel? Why were they knocking on our doors? Can we figure that out? They're like, oh, there's no cameras. What do you mean there's no cameras? This is a hotel. I said, so there's no cameras on the exits and the entry points. There's no cameras in the stairwell. There's no cameras in the hallway. There's no cameras like near the elevator, because he must have got in the elevator. He must have came in the stairwell, because if he doesn't have a key card, the only entryway would have been he would have walked into the hotel and he would have went straight to the stairwell to go up the floors. You don't have cameras there? They're like, no. And I'm like, this is unacceptable. Keep in mind, this is a Hilton. And I'm a loyal Hilton member, and I love staying at Hiltons and Marriotts. And this was like the first big disappointment. But the biggest thing for me is the reason why I'm making this video is to raise awareness of, if you're staying at hotels, make sure when you get in your room, lock that door behind you, put the latch on. Don't go quickly go open the door. Even if you order DoorDash, ensure like that person before you open the door has your order, knows your name before you even say your name. Take the proper procedures to ensure that you're not just la-di-da-di opening the door. Because if I did not think, and I did not take all those proper procedures of thinking like, okay, if it's my husband, he would have called me. If it's this would have happened. I don't know what would have happened to me today, and I probably would not even be here to even make this video, because God knows what would have happened to me. So please be safe out here, and please make sure you take the proper precautions when you're staying at hotels, because you're not safe.